Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Azure Weekly Update. It is the 28th-ish of February 2025. Recording it a little bit early because first thing Friday morning, I'm going to be getting up at the crack of dawn, even earlier than normal, and going there and adding 2 new members to the Saville household family. We're getting 2 new puppies. So hopefully that goes well, but I won't be able to record it in the morning. So doing it now. As always, we have the chapters, so you can jump to any particular update you care about the most. New videos this week, much so hopefully everyone will be happy. We did the networking module of the Azure Masterclass. I saw lots of posts, when's the networking module going to be released? It's a networking module, I think it's nearly 3 hours long. And also I did a video on the internet fallback capabilities of private DNS zones when they're being used for private link purposes. There's also a LinkedIn article and a YouTube short version of that one as well. So on to what's new on the compute side. So Azure Functions now have Python 3.12 support in preview, so you can just go ahead and leverage those in your functions. On the networking side, so the Azure Load Balancer now has health event logs available in GA. So what this basically gives me is an easy way to get insight into the health of my Azure Load Balancer. So I could see if I was, for example, running out of snap ports, or I've actually run out. If there is a lack of any healthy backends, if there's a misconfiguration that's causing traffic distribution issues. And these are all available in the Load Balancer Health Event Resource Log category, and they really fall into warning and critical severity log types. On the storage side, so UltraDisk is now available in New Zealand North GA. Remember, UltraDisk provides that sub-half millisecond latency. It has separate capacity, IOPS and throughput dials, with IOPS and throughput being dynamically changeable. It is the highest performing managed disk option when I have the most demanding workloads like high load databases, SAP HANA, anything that just needs the highest IOPS and throughput and that lowest latency possible. On the database side, so SQL database T-SQL has some new features in preview. Remember, T-SQL is how we interact with our SQL database, select star, etc., etc., etc. And there are 3 big new capabilities that I can now use in my T-SQL statements against SQL database. So there's an enhanced regex pattern matching capability. So things like I can do like, count, i.e. how many times something is there, in string, where in the string, replace substring. So I'm using those regex familiar patterns as part of my SQL statements. It's also got fuzzy string matching. Now that's really important if I have inconsistencies in maybe what I'm looking for and the actual data. This could be a typo, a spelling variation, and I have to be able to handle those inconsistencies within a certain window, a threshold of variation. Maybe it has to have a certain amount of similarity, a certain number of characters that could be substituted, etc. So that is now available. And then date add function now supports big integer. So remember, big add lets me add a time interval to a date, and the ability to now support big int is really useful if I have a large interval value or I need some very high precision computation, think microseconds. These are all available in Azure SQL Database and the SQL Database features of Fabric. SQL Database now has the availability metric in GA. So that's a new metric that tracks the availability down to an individual SQL database level. And it's actually granular down to the minute of any connection outage. So I could use that then for SLA purposes. I can also use it to trigger alerts. SQL Managed Instance now has Windows principals in GA. So I'm focused on SQL Managed Instance, and this is a new type of authentication in addition to the Microsoft Entra and kind of that SQL Server. We're adding this Windows mode, and it's going to let me authenticate using Entra users using the Windows user metadata within my SQL MI instance. Now that Windows user, like from my regular Active Directory, that's being replicated from an on-premises SQL Server 2017 or 2019 instance via Managed Instance link. So that on-prem database that has Active Directory principals given various logins on my database, it's replicating the metadata to my Azure SQL MI instance. They're going to pair that with the fact that your Active Directory, well, that is being synchronized to Entra using Entra ID Connect. What that then allows, therefore, is the mapping of the Windows metadata in the database from the replication to be matched to the Entra identity. So what it now lets me do is then use the appropriate Entra user against my SQL MI instance. So this is phenomenal for migrations, because in the past, I would have had to go and drop and recreate all the logins, but I don't have to anymore. I'm going to just be able to use those as part of that migrated metadata. There's now a unified database migration to MySQL available in preview. So this is, I've got a MySQL Flexible in Azure, and I've got some source MySQL on premises in other clouds. It doesn't matter. And I'm replicating it offline, moving it, restoring a backup via the database migration service. So there are various migration options available, but I'm getting it all via this unified experience. PostgreSQL Flexible now has managed instance support for the various Azure AI services. So there are many integrations between PostgreSQL Flexible and the various AI services. I might want to go and create an embedding, i.e. that vector representation of the data. There might be some inferencing hook and other things. And what I would have to do in the past is leverage a secret that I would have to store as part of my PostgreSQL to use and authenticate against those services. Well, now with a managed identity, I'm using that identity inherent to the Azure resource, i.e. my PostgreSQL Flexible instance. I can then give that permissions on those various Azure AI services, which removes me having to store or maintain any part of secret, use as the PostgreSQL AI extension. PostgreSQL has some new minor versions supported: 17.2, 16.6, 15.10, 14.15, 13.18, and 12.12, all supported by the Azure database for PostgreSQL. And those minor version upgrades, remember, are just going to be automatically performed as part of the regular plan maintenance that you get each month. And then finally, Cosmos DB has a Rust SDK available in preview. So I'm using that memory safe Rust language. Now I can use the provided SDK to integrate and work with Cosmos DB, which includes things like Entra integrated authentication. Azure Site Recovery's pricing calculator has now gone GA. So Azure Site Recovery, remember, provides replication for workloads. This could be on premises to Azure or Azure to Azure. And if I think about that replication to that target Azure, wherever it is, there's various aspects to the cost. One of them is the ASR license itself, but the big one is the managed disk. There's also a source storage account to store the change cache, but it's really that managed disk that is a big part of that variable cost. And then I don't pay for any compute charges unless I actually fail over or I'm testing the scenario. So the pricing calculator for ASR can now estimate those various costs for the Azure to Azure scenario. Other scenarios like VMware to Azure already has its own scenario estimator. But now for the Azure to Azure, I can download a spreadsheet and then utilize it to estimate my costs. The O3-mini model is now available in the global and US data zones. Remember, O3-mini is the latest small reasoning model. It's small, so it means generally lower costs, lower latencies. It has function calling, it has structured outputs, and it lets you pick the amount of effort for that reasoning, low, medium, high, depending on how much extra thought and how many extra reasoning internal tokens you want it to use. But now, yes, the clusters it can use can either be anywhere in the world, or if I have various data sovereignty requirements, I can say, hey, use any cluster in any region within the United States. Those are both for customers that are part of the registered limited access program. And I have a whole video on the different global, data zone, regional, etc., if that's something you're not 100% clear on. The Phi-4-multimodal and the Phi-4-mini are now available. So the Phi models are small language models. Small language model means generally there are single-digit billions of parameters. That lets me run them on smaller amounts of hardware, on my PC, on my phone, maybe in a car. They have less of an energy drain. And these are from Microsoft Research. So the Phi-4-multimodal, sounds like the same Phi phone, it's 5.6 billion parameters. It supports speech, vision, and text inputs via this single model. Now, it does that using something called a mixture of LoRa's, low-rank adaptations. Instead of fine-tuning all of the parameters on the model, you have a certain corpus of data for a specific purpose, and you create this adapter, a layer of modifiers that lay on top of the read-only parameters on the model. And what this lets me do is it's less training, it's lighter to run this, and then I can actually layer these on as I need them. So the mixture of LoRa's, when I have my input, it has a gating function to work out, well, which of those different LoRa's should I be leveraging that is most applicable to this input. Now, when I talk about those three modalities, audio, text, video, I can use two at a time. I can't use all three. So I could have text and audio. I could do audio and video. The output is always going to be text. But remember, I could always then feed that into a different model. I could pass that to a text-to-speech model, for example, if I wanted an audio output. Also, the Phi-4-mini is a 3.8 billion parameter model. So that's really focused on speed and efficiency. It's text only, but it supports up to 128,000 tokens. It's very good at reasoning. It's good at coding, instruction following, can do function calling. It's good at math. Both of the models, they've undergone all of the Microsoft security and safety testing done by the Microsoft AI Red team. So it's really ready for you to go and try it out. And then Azure Load Testing now has notifications in GA. So Azure Load Testing lets me take my JMeter, my Locust scripts, or I can even do a quick start in the portal against a certain endpoint using compute on demand for the test engine that can generate load to test my application. Well, now I can configure notifications to tell me when the test starts, when the test completes, or there's some change to the scheduling of my test. And that was it. As always, I hope that was useful, and I will get some video out of the puppies destroying my home as quickly as I can. Take care.